Hello, my name is Aiden Chase, and I'd like to take you on a brief tour of the St. Louis craft breweries. So, what do you think of when you think of St. Louis? The most likely image that comes to mind for people on the outside is the Gateway Arch, a gleaming monument to America's push westward. Or perhaps you think of our sports teams. Does the roar of the crowd fill your ears as Jordan Walker hits an absolute missile into Big Mac land? Or does her whole body shake as the goal horn fills Enterprise Center when Braden Shen deposits the puck top shelf over the goaltender? Those more local to the area will probably think of places like the St. Louis Zoo, Grant's Farm, or the City Museum. But what I like to think of is beer. St. Louis has a long and storied history in traditional brewing, and I'd like to take some time to highlight a few of the smaller craft breweries within the city. But first, before we dive too deep, let's take a quick look at the history of brewing in St. Louis. While beer had been made in small batches for commercial sale since the early 1800s, the first company to truly brew and sell beer on a large scale was the Lemp Brewery, founded by German immigrant Johann Adam Lemp. He brewed and sold a light golden, easy to drink lager style beer that would soon become synonymous with the area. Breweries like Bavarian Brewery, founded by one Eberhard Anheuser, Falstaff, and Finkelmeyer would follow. The Germans brewing the Germans bringing new techniques and beer gardens across the pond with them. By 1870, St. Louis breweries were among the most successful in the nation. Lemp and the newly reorganized Anheuser-Busch would continue to lead the pack in sales and popularity until Prohibition, after which only Anheuser-Busch and Falstaff survived, though Falstaff would never reach the production output of the Bavarian Titan on the banks of the Mississippi, eventually turning off the kettles for good in 2005. Anheuser-Busch is still brewing beer today and operates 12 breweries across the nation and sells their products globally. Our first stop in this tour is Square One. Nestled on the corner of Park Avenue, a hop, skip, and a jump away from Lafayette Park, lies Square One Brewery and Distillery. It was founded in 2006 by Steve Newcomb, though the building has been operating as a restaurant since the 1980s. Steve felt the time was right for Lafayette Square to have its own local brewery and restaurant alongside a craft distillery. The name comes from the location and a personal touch, as it was Steve's first commercial building, his first restaurant, and now his first brewery, all located in historic Lafayette Square, thus bringing everything back to square one. Now, there was a legal loophole that needed to be jumped through first, as Missouri law didn't cover a restaurant, brewery, and distillery all under the same roof that could operate well into the night. So the building just operated as a brewery for the first 2 years of its life until the Missouri Liquor Control decided to let it slide. A single word descriptor I can give for Square One is that of atmosphere. The relatively small space in the dining areas, bar, and outdoor patio, combined with the decor, warm lighting, good music, and friendly staff, and the patrons, all blends together into an atmosphere that feels homey and welcoming. A comfortable place where you can shrug off the burdens of the day and enjoy some good beer. Now, what makes Square One unique in St. Louis is that it combines a craft brewery and a craft distillery under the same roof, producing both beer and high quality rum, vodka, tequila, and whiskey. The flagship of the distillery is J.J. Newcomb, a single malt American whiskey sitting at 45% alcohol by volume. It's rather good for the price. It's whiskey with a nose of caramel, smoke, and cherries, and a tasting profile of cherry, oak, smoke, and a nutty spice. You can find it at the brewery and local liquor stores. Food and drink at the restaurant is exceptional, ranging from your standard fare of pub food to salads, crab cakes, steak, and salmon. They even have options for brunch and dessert. You regret not trying the bread pudding. The beer menu features 12 unique brews, 6 of which stay year round while the other 6 rotate with the seasons. Winter and fall beers will be darker in color, with more malt and flavors that match the weather outside, making you feel nice, warm, and happy. The spring and summer beers are likewise light, crisp, refreshing, and lean more towards hops and fruit in the flavor profile. The flagship beer is the Light Squared, pictured here. It's a deceptively flavored golden ale. And while its color may suggest it tastes like Bud Light, you're met with a crisp and citrusy nose and highly hoppy, malty, or a slightly hoppy, malty, and refreshing taste. Sitting at 4.25 alcohol by volume, though, you want to be careful about throwing it back. The fish and chips are my go-to meal. A slab of cod hand battered and fried till golden brown till it has a perfectly crisp and flaky crust with a warm and soft center, and served with a delicious house remoulade and french fries. I had the opportunity to talk with Dr. John Witt, one of the managers at Square One who has been working alongside Steve Newcomb since 1999. Born and raised in Kirkwood, John's family has a long history of brewing and distilling, with many of his ancestors being German and Italian immigrants who had their hands in the wine and beer trade. John himself had been brewing beer since 1989, starting in his kitchen before opening Trailhead Brewery, now the Bankside Brew Pub, operated by Schlafly, and becoming the head brewer at Square One a few short years later. To him, Square One is home, and his coworkers are family. He has an especially close connection with Steve Newcomb, as they have very similar life stories and he sees him as an older brother of sorts. He has two favorite beers they produce, the South German Pilsner and the Lafayette Lager, both available in opposing seasons. And while he considers their flagship beer open to interpretation, he believes that the Light Squared could be considered it due to the raw volume they produce. He thinks that St. Louis is special for beer for a myriad of reasons, but boiled down, it all comes down to location. St. Louis is where many German immigrants planted their roots and brought their traditions of sharing good food and good beer with good company along with them. The Mississippi River gave brewers access to fresh grains coming from across the nation, as well as fresh ice when the river froze over in the winter. The quality of water also contributes to the quality of beer produced in St. Louis. Our second stop, along the, along the slice of Manchester's Avenue that guides visitors through the heart of the Grove, lies the Urban Chestnut Beer Hall, the brainchild of Florian Coopert and David Wolf, the brewmaster and president of Urban Chestnut respectively, who were both former employees of Anheuser-Busch. Urban Chestnut was the result of a common vision that a St. Louis-based craft brewery could create technical recreations of classic European beers, alongside broad experimentation with new upcoming styles and techniques for brewing. First opening its doors in 2011, Urban Chestnut has three locations: the original brewery and beer garden in Midtown, the beer hall in the Grove, and a brewery located in Hallertau, Germany, which opened in 2015, becoming the first craft beer company to own and produce beer in Europe. The single word describer I have for Urban Chestnut is fusion. The location in the Grove truly feels like a modern industrial take on a classic German beer hall. A wide open space with plenty of tables, with bench seating and a massive bar with dozens of beers lined up on tap, ranging from traditional lagers to modern IPAs, all while Kings of Leon and Silver Sun pickups play overhead. It lends itself to an atmosphere of community and camaraderie, while simultaneously making it feel like you're at a music festival. Like Square One, Urban Chestnut features a rotating menu of seasonal beers, alongside a mainstay of year-rounders. The flagship beer is Zwickel, a traditional unfiltered Bavarian lager with a golden amber body and a crisp, slightly hoppy taste that is incredibly smooth to drink. Zwickel consists of 40% of the volume of all beers made at Urban Chestnut, and you can find Urban Chestnut beer at almost every grocer and liquor store in the state. The food options reflect the element of fusion that Urban Chestnut seeks to embody in their other aspects. The traditional German fare of schnitzel, bratwurst, and Bavarian pretzels are served alongside pizzas, burgers, and loaded french fries. The beer I tried was Dorf beer, a traditional Munich-style Dunkelweiss that is one of my favorite go-to beers year-round. It is a deep amber-colored lager with caramel and a hint of chocolate on the nose, and a malty yet sweet taste that gives way to just a hint of hoppiness. The burger I had wasn't particularly noteworthy, though it was cooked the perfect shade of medium rare, and the house pickles on top of it were great. The fries were incredibly crispy as well. The pretzels by themselves weren't particularly remarkable either, but the house mustard, with enough horseradish to kill a horse, elevated them to another level. I got a brief interview with Kurt Dresner, who has been working with Urban Chestnut since the very beginning. Born in the St. Louis area, Kurt moved out to pursue a degree in environmental toxicology before making his way back into the city. Starting out as one of the brewers, Kurt now leads the quality and process lab at Urban Chestnut, ensuring that each batch is up to standard, as well as assisting in the experimentation of new beers. His work is a source of pride to him, and he finds his job incredibly rewarding, and he is always energized by the commitment to quality and experimentation. Quote, "It's satisfying to see the community in St. Louis and beyond enjoy our products and share their life experiences with us." His favorite beer is a seasonal brew called Konomi. Made in collaboration with the Missouri Botanical Garden, Konomi is a rice-based pale ale that is dry hopped and made with matcha tea and yeast sourced from the oldest running sake brewery in Japan. I haven't tried it yet, but I've got a pack saved for sharing with my friends this Christmas. Now, what makes St. Louis special for Kurt is the history of brewing in the city. Starting with the old 1800s operations and continuing into the modern day with companies like Anheuser-Busch, brewing in St. Louis has always been on the forefront of advancement in technology and technique. He hopes that Urban Chestnut can continue that tradition. Our final stop on this journey sits on the outskirts of the Grove, sat between stacked shipping containers on Vanaventer Avenue, Rockwell Beer Company. The newest of the breweries on this list, Rockwell was founded in 2018 with the aim of creating a modern beer hall where people can gather, have a good time, and enjoy quality food and drink. Their philosophy as it comes to beer is to make nothing forgettable. They don't chase fads or push out new gimmicks. They instead seek to be as creative and innovative as possible with each new brew that will leave people wanting another glass. And the building reflects that. Between the kitchen and a shipping container, that blue one in the picture there, and the googly eyes on the fermentation kegs, the llama mascot, and the beer served in stemmed glasses, Rockwell does everything it can to be unconventional and unforgettable. St. Louis University students will cram the tables on a busy evening playing Jenga, Yahtzee, and Battleship over many pints while Arctic Monkeys plays overhead. Now, if you were expecting a large food menu, you've come to the wrong place. The menu is very limited in its size and scope, the most exotic thing being a Caesar salad. Despite this, the offers are all very appetizing and will give you a reason to come back other than for the beer. The burger I had was well seasoned and perfectly cooked, and served on the best bread for burgers, that being brioche. And while the shoestring French fries were the perfect level of salty and savory. Just like the other two breweries discussed, Rockwell has a rotation of seasonal beers alongside yearly offerings. The flagship beer is Passing Clouds, a Belgian-style wit beer, pictured here with the dog. It was the first recipe written down by a head brewer and has been the best seller since they've opened their doors. The beer I chose to imbibe in was the Foderbach, a deep brown Doppelbock style beer. The nose is nutty and malty with a hint of chocolate, and the taste gives way to malt, coffee, bread, and chocolate. It's a delicious beer that's sweet and savory. But drinker beware, as it sits at 7.6% alcohol by volume. It's best to be sipped over a lengthy conversation rather than shotgun my like Miller Lite. The last person I spoke with for this project was Jonathan Moxey, the head brewer at Rockwell. He was born and raised in Sikeston, Missouri, and after graduating from Mizzou with a degree in journalism, he moved to New York City and got into homebrewing there. He and his wife moved back to her hometown, St. Louis, and Jonathan worked at Schlafly and Perennial Ales before helping to start up Rockwell. To him, the brewery is a creative outlet and allows him to share his passion for brewing taking something from planning stages to finished product. He finds the opportunity to watch people enjoy the beers he creates incredibly gratifying as well. His favorite beer they produce is Standby, a hoppy Pilsner style lager that embodies the qualities he seeks to coax out of beer. Straightforward and well done. Quote, there's no room to hide flaws in a lager like that. If we mess something up along the way, it'll show. St. Louis is special to him for a combination of the thoughts of John and Kurt. The history of brewing runs deep thanks to Anheuser-Busch and the other pre-Prohibition breweries, alongside the craft breweries like Schlafly that emerged in the late 90s and early 2000s that kicked down the doors to help create the diverse beer scene here. He credits the quality of water to the quality of the beer as well. In summation, I've really only scratched the surface of the brewery iceberg that is St. Louis. If I were to talk about every brewery that established itself here, this presentation would be 4 hours long. I reached out to Anheuser-Busch and Schlafly as well to see if I could get some answers from them, but never got back to me. As far as recommendations go, Schlafly, Four Hands, and Civil Life are all local breweries with fantastic beer. Schlafly being home to two of my top five favorite beers, that being the Coffee Stout and the Pale Ale they sell, and Four Hands being home to the number five occupant, that being Cast Iron, a oatmeal brown ale. With the exception of Square One, all the breweries I've mentioned have beers that can be found year-round at liquor stores and grocers within the state and into the surrounding states as well. I found Cast Iron when I was in Kansas City. Beer is a cornerstone of St. Louis, and I don't think anything short of a nuclear Armageddon will dislodge it.